The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Well, here I am again. My name is Roy Masters, and we're going to be talking about, well, problems with kids. And I see this evening we have some beautiful children in our audience. I'm not sure they can stick it out for 3 hours. And I think they've come to tell on their parents, because I heard their mother say, "Shut up, don't say a word." But out of the mouths of babes, that's what we are hoping for this evening. So, young ladies, if you have something to tell on your mother, because deep down she wants you. She wants to be exposed, you know what I mean? She wants to return to the scene of the crime, you know what I mean? Anyway, the most precious possession we have is our children, but most of us treat our children, well, we treat our dogs better than our kids. As a matter of fact, if we treat our children as well as our dogs, we treat them like dogs. See, I got them already. Meaning, when you send them to school, what are they going to do? Give you a brownie button? There's a good little girl. You know, and you reward them and you punish them just like a dog, a trained sea lion. You expect them to grow up to be human beings? I'm right, aren't I? You're not supposed to motivate children like you motivate dogs. You have a soul to consider. You have a consciousness, a part of the being which is not seen, but nevertheless is real, and it must be taken in consideration. And if not, you're going to have a problem on your hands, and you just don't. Well, it's the same when you get married. When you get married to your wife, all you're doing is buying an external thing, aren't you? When you wake up several years later or several months later, then you're dealing with something internal, and it's not what you bargained for. You discover there's another side of a woman, and there's also another side of the man. And when you wake up, you realize that that's what you're involved with. That's what you've been dealing with all along, even though you couldn't see it. Well, it's the same way with children. They have an interior self. And the only way that I could see to bring up children is to have an interior self of yourself, to understand the interior self of a child. Because otherwise you won't understand them, you won't be there for them. You'll be treating this external self like it was a dog. Down, Fido, go, come, fetch, lie, bark. And if they don't respond, well, then you get mad. If they don't do what they're supposed to, you get mad. And if they do what they're supposed to, you're not happy with it either, because what have you got is a wimp, a people pleaser. You've set them up to cow down, to lick the boots of tyrants. Is that right, ladies and gentlemen? Now, did you come from... Yes, that's right, she understands it. You know, I have 6-year-olds listening to me, and they understand me very well. But I have college professors who think I'm crazy. There's intellectual meatheads. They're living in a world of fantasy and unreality of their own creation. They know nothing about what I've just said. Because if they did, the school system would be a lot different. Our school system is one nut house. You know, turning out little robots for the mills and the mines. Mindless beings. And I suppose that's where all your problems begin. I mean, I'm sure you had problems with pressure at home and at school and being treated like a dog and not with no respect to your inner understanding because they never had it. They seem to be a part of a system that doesn't want you to have it. So then when you start to express the fact that you have something, you're a troublemaker. The truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, is that when you were born, you know more than your school teachers. You know more than your parents, the day you're born. Because when the day you die, you're just like them. You've missed the whole thing. Now, I have set something in motion. And this program this evening is not simply Roy Masters lecturing on everybody, because you know me, I'm going forever. Just put me up there and just turn me on. Anybody would like to bring up a subject for discussion? Anything? Yes. Felt the pressure, didn't you?
I understand what you're saying
Can
about...
you stand up, please?
Oh, sure.
Thank you very much.
I understand what you mean about applying pressure, and I understand a lot of your concepts. What I have trouble
Remember,
with...
they're not my concepts. They
well,
are concepts.
are mine that you tapped on.
Don't ever accept anything that you don't see. In other words, if it's something strange to you, don't buy it. It's very simple. There's nothing I say that you don't already know.
Right.
I'm just reminding you, you've forgotten it. See? Okay, that's fair enough.
I understand what you mean. When your children were growing up,
Yes.
what kind of means did you use to discipline, if indeed some disciplinary action had to be taken?
I hardly ever had to discipline them because they love me.
Well, until we get to that state.
So that's the only way. They'll do what their dope pushers say.
Well, can I ask
They
you?
do what their gang leaders say. They do what their scumbag friends say. Why won't they do what you say? Because they have more respect for what is scummy. What is scummier than you? You've set them up to rebel against you, but to respond to the same kind that is you in the world. Because, you know, anyone who doesn't love them, who doesn't inspire respect, inspires contempt, hate. See? And rebellion. Well, either you inspire conformity, which is that somebody who is like you will take your place one day, whether it be a boss, a husband, a wife. Well, that's not a human being, you're just a slave. Or they rebel against you, but they conform to someone else. The rebellious self needs love. And therefore it will look for someone who loves them for their rebellious self. So they become more rebellious. But that person will use them. That person who supports the rebellion say, yeah, go hate your father. See? Yeah, hate society. Hate everything. Well, then you become an Ayatollah Khomeini. I mean, you support the hate like you could become a Hitler. How did he operate? He operated through people's rebellion. You saw what happened to Hitler Germany. The same thing is happening right now to America. Just before, Germany used to be a democracy, and the people who call themselves liberals, they looted the value of the mark until 50,000 marks wouldn't buy an egg. So they created such hate and rebellion. So then comes Hitler, like gang leader, and justifies their hatred and rebellion. But then pretty soon, he uses that hatred towards everything in society and the world to make himself powerful. So you hate your wife, but you go to another woman who loves you for hating your wife and who gives you sympathy and say, there, she's really a wicked person. See? So you love that person who supports you hating somebody else. But that person has you in their grasp. So what I'm saying is, to cut a long story short, my children love me and respect me. And I haven't forced them to love me and respect me. What made me strong in their eyes that I stood against their mother.
What did you do when they were angry, when they showed anger?
Well, they only showed anger because they had their mother's hate for me in them. My mother was very rebellious. She wanted to dominate me and she couldn't. And she hated the fact that she couldn't. One minute she was nice and next minute she was cruel, but neither one worked. And then children saw me standing there, tall in the saddle, and they began to see that who was crazy. It wasn't me. So they gave up their resentment towards me, which, as after all, was their mother's, for me. They're bonded to their mother. And pretty soon, they felt better about loving me than hating me. See? And they started to grow to be people. And slowly but surely, because I stood for what was right and was able to stand against the spirit of their mother, like the Rebel Without a Cause. Remember what was wrong? Do you remember see that movie? Rebel Without a Cause? You have to get a video cassette of it. It's all about a young man who was in trouble only because his father was a wimp. But all he ever wanted was for his father to stand up to his mother. Not to beat her into the ground or anything, but just to stand up to her. Oh, yes dear, no dear. This is the cause of all the troubles in society. You want your children to love you? Gentlemen, make sure you stand up against your wife. But you don't stand up against her, you fight the good fight. See, there's good fights and bad fights. In a good fight, both people win. For instance, if I stand up against my willful wife, I don't get upset, and after all, I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to push her down. After all, she's going to wear herself out. After all, she has respect for me, because after all, I am right, and she needed the correction anyway, right? So who loses? Nobody. In the good fight, nobody loses. So when you correct your children, they hate you, they have their mother's resentment, they have the woman spirit in them, because that's the children are born with that. They're bonded to the woman the day they're born, so you have to save them from that fate worse than death. That's what it is. Woman bonding is a fate worse than death. So when you stand for something that is from another dimension, they can transfer their bonding. And when they do, you've saved your children from the world. That's what it takes. They love you and they see that you're right, and they're in your camp. They understand you, they love you, they appreciate you. They see your strength, they want to be like you. They see almost through your eyes, through your perceptions, things as they really are. You see, because if they don't have you, what have they got to compare them with? They've only got the identity of all the scumbags they run with that you've set them up for. Does that make sense? So how do you do it? You have to find the truth that makes you free. Whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, you've just got to have this other dimension of awareness that's so strong that it goes right down to your bootstraps and beyond. So you have the irresistible force meeting the immovable object and nothing moves. And you find that the irresistible forces ain't so resistible. You see? Yes, young lady.
What if you don't have the husband taking on that part, and you're a mother, and so...
It's unfortunate.
So you have to take on... I've heard you say that you have to get the male identity, a woman does.
A woman
I understand that, but in the meantime...
A woman has to become not masculine,
I know,
but she has to take on the mind of a man, which is non-sexual. A male is sexual, a man is non-sexual. Jesus is non-sexual because he's a real man. So you have to get rid of your feminine, female, willful. They're together, aren't they?
So until that happens, your children
you go down the drain.
Suffer with the willful mother.
That's right. Otherwise, if your will gets in the way, then how do they see God? The spirit of a child wants to obey the spirit that created them. They recognize it in you and they correspond. But when they're corrupted, and when there's no spirit of God there, there's only a willful witch or a willful weak father, then they react to that, and now they have a different God, because they've been traumatized by father not being there and mother being there. See how I said that?
So if a woman could get over the resentment towards her husband, and then the children don't feel that resentment, and the woman's right, and
right
has that man's
money.
spirit, they will still...
They'll survive.
They'll survive.
I've had
They'll
people-
survive me.
Yes, they'll survive you.
What's
That's what
in
you want
you,
them to
yeah.
do, survive the witch.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me, I don't mean to
Oh,
do that.
it's...
You know
Yes.
yourself, don't you?
Yes.
That's what you want to be saved from, and you hoped your husband would do it, but he's too busy getting his goodies from her. Right? And cultivating the witch
Right.
for his pleasure taking.
Okay.
Anybody else? Yes, the gentleman back there.
From what you said then, the powers that be in society want this sort of thing to go on.
You got
I mean,
it.
this is how they control society, this is how they control the people.
By treating people like dogs and sea lions.
Yeah, but this is the woman, the spirit of the woman
The
operating.
spirit of the woman does that. It keeps you.
right.
It can teach you. Teaches you to be a conditioned reflex animal, responsive to stimuli and stimulation, so that you take your identity and all of your input from what is outside you and nothing from what's inside you, so that the real man doesn't grow, but you become a beast for the mines and for the factories and for the prisons and for war and for whatever purpose they have, because the whole, well, just like the Masters of the Universe, all the kids' programs have the contest between good and evil, right? That's what it is. It's exactly right on the money. The forces, good and evil, except they don't tell you where it is, where it's located. It's in the woman. And the failure is in the man. All the misery and all the suffering, ever since Adam fell to woman, was traumatized and lost his man identity and became male, because with a woman center, compensating. Oh, I'll go into this in a little while. This is something that you really need to. But we're getting away from the children. But ever since that fall of man, the world that you see now comes through the man's life revolving around the spirit of the woman. Everything that's wrong, man that's born of woman has but a short time to live. And I don't remember the rest of the graveside prayer, but you hear it often, don't you? His life is full of tragedy and misery and suffering and something, etc., etc., etc. But it's in that prayer for the dead, isn't it? Man that is born of woman. Could man be born in some other way other than a woman? He could be born of God. The principle, the Bible speaks of two types of men, son of man and son of, you know what I mean, but we'll forget about him. That's the second fall, when he becomes the son of, but son of man and son of God. How can you be a son of God? Man born of woman is son of man. Where does the Son of God fit in? Well, you have to be born again. You're born once as a male, and second as a man. But the women make you think that the male is a man. Probably the male man. We have to lighten this up a little bit. It may have been your father, you know, we could tell. See?
The only way to get out from under this, then, is by not resenting what we see, but just recognize it for what it is. And
are you willing to admit that you're anything but a man? And if you're not willing to admit that you're not a man, by what means do you remind yourself that you are a man? It's by means of a woman's lie. You look for the love which carries the lie into the brain by virtue of the lower extremities. It carries the energizes the message of love. And you buy into that and reinforce the spirit of the woman which you think of as a man. You're actually becoming more of a female in that moment, less of authority in your home. Because that very moment of ecstasy is the next moment of hell. But the reason why you can't see the hell is because in that moment you're buying the lie that you are something energized by the sensuous experience, the electrifying experience that pulls you away from the consciousness of the truth. It's your most relief at that moment. And that's why you love it. And if there's pride in you and no repentance and no love of truth or God in you in that moment, that's what you will always go back to. Because for more, and it'll be more and more exciting, more and more stimulating. It has to be, because the lie is bigger, and the conscience, the truth, is more apparent as it develops. You see, and then we're from women, drugs, alcohol, music, anything. But the trouble is, you have to admit that your need for a woman is not love. Now, this is very, very hard to buy, because your whole society has lied to you. The very society that this gentleman was talking about, the forces in this society, you can't put a a political name. There's no political organization. It's operating through almost every agency. It may be in the name of Christianity that you turn into a robot. It may be the homosexual order of erotica that's turning you into something you could never be, and fusing the lie as the truth in your mind through more intense experiences so that you can believe that who you are is what God meant it to be. See what I mean? Which is a total denial process through stimulation. Yes.
Going back to children, when I ask you a question, my son is 12 years old and he's just starting to rebel right now.
You need to get that little microphone a little closer if you.
And he's starting to rebel right now, which is really scaring my husband and I, and we're getting very, nervous about it. But when we say no to him,
Who's we? Is we you?
my husband and I.
No.
Oh,
You're nobody.
well,
I don't mean to be
unfortunately,
rude. I want to drive
I
the point.
understand that, and
See,
that-
my husband and I, we're a team. If he doesn't do as I say, he's in the doghouse. See, you got to be careful. We do this, and my husband and I, we do that. I know who's wearing the pants in that house. You don't wear pants. Yes, you are wearing pants.
you're right, I wear the pants.
See, no good. Then you better stop the we and look at the fact that it's, when I say to my son, just do this, he does the opposite. Of course. You wear the pants, and he doesn't respect your spirit. You are jumping in ahead of your husband.
He's telling me that I don't have the right to tell him what to do.
No, you have the right. The ideal order is God and man, man over woman, woman over children. It's a military chain of command. If it isn't that way at all. It's whoever woman's God is over the woman over the man, and she rules the roost, and the kids are rebelling and conforming and turning into little robots, and she's turning out all kinds of queers. Am I right or not? Yes. Out of the mouth of babes, you recognize it. You know it, don't you? He's nodding her head agreeing. I don't mean to be rude, ma'am.
Oh, that's all right.
It's just my way
You're
of
not hurting my feelings. That's all right. But the question is that when we stand up to him together, which is what I
Wait a
am.
minute, we're standing up to who together?
My husband and I are trying to stand up to my son.
There it is again.
Well, that's
You're
the way
ganging
it
up
is.
on him.
Well, that's the way it is. I tell my son that he can't do something.
It takes two of you to fight him.
It does. It's beginning to do that. But anyway.
All right, I'll tell you what.
So.
Let's hang on to this for a minute. You'll stand up in the next segment, which will be tomorrow night for everybody else, but a few minutes for everybody else. Okay, the TV audience. Okay. We'll continue that thought. Would you hang on? Because this is like a serial thriller, a soap. You're going to make you wait for tomorrow night for the answer. And but there may not be a tomorrow night, because we're going broke, trying to help you. And I was hoping this TV would do all right. We spent over $100,000 already, and I think we got 30 back. So we're still going in the hole. Every day it doesn't seem to grow. Your generosity isn't there. Maybe if Tim and Tammy, Jim and Shmammy, or whatever their names are, if they were sitting here, they could get the money out of you. They pressure you and say that God won't be pleased with you if you don't send him money, and so you want God to be pleased, and you feel angry and resentful and guilty, feel like you're doing something wrong, so then you see, they play little games with you. If I was Oral Roberts, I would say, if you don't send me money, I'm a preacher, but I'm God's spokesman. Look, I haven't done my work. I'm going to jump off the Eiffel Tower unless you send me money. And people, it works. If you put pressure on people, people respond, and then they give money. Women give sex when they get upset and feel guilty, like it's their fault if he jumps off the Eiffel Tower. Personally, we should let him jump off the Eiffel. But that's how he gets money. Now, it's not any good if you send him money, because he just becomes more of a baby. See, and he's going to try thinking up some more tricks next time. but the trouble is that if I don't do that, I'm not appealing to. See, you're so earthy that if I was to, if I am appealing to your good side, there's not much of a good side. I'm sorry to say. I mean, Jesus was hanging on a cross. There was only 5 Romans playing pinochle with his underwear, and nobody came to help him. There's 5,000 people. They could have taken him off the cross. The worldliness holds you back. Fear, greed. So if I appeal to your selfishness and your greed, if I pull one of your strings, I know all the strings. I could pull any string I wanted to. But then what kind of human being would I be? I wouldn't be the kind of person that could help your kind of person. There wouldn't be either one of us there for each other. So, are you going to put up or shut up? Are you going to help us or not? Do you like the program? If you want to keep it on, is it teaching you something? Is there something here that you can't get from books or from your professors? From your soul-dead, brain-alive professors? Fine. If you feel like this program is worth something, then send $20 a month or something. And I'm not going to send you any thank you letter. You won't hear a word from me. Just pay your light bill, and I'll do the program, and you'll get the benefits. Yeah. I'm not going to say thank you for thanking me, and we're not going to play ring a ring around the roses. But I don't want to do all that. If you don't mind, thank you for listening. And if I'm here tomorrow night, join you tomorrow night. Well, I will be, but it won't be for long if you don't do something soon. Thank you very much, and join us again. Hello, I'm Roy Masters, and we're continuing our interesting subject from last evening, or last segment, on the subject of children. And we're having a lot of fun here. And I must say that I like it lighthearted. I know people can lose respect for you if you are too lighthearted. People don't like you when you're happy-go-lucky. They think you're silly. And some people are silly, you know. They try to be something they're not. I am happy-go-lucky. I have a lot of fun and a lot of natural humor, because that's what life is. I see the funny side of everything. I know if I was sitting right where God is, I'd be laughing my sides off. Seeing all the fixes everybody get themselves in. We're trying to help you to understand it from his point of view, you know, and to be more objective. But I remember people used to make fun of my lightheartedness, like I was silly. I just saw the fun in everything. They didn't like that. Did you ever experience that when you were a kid, people not liking you because you were happy? They try to make you stupid. And you wake up one morning and say, I'm not going to be happy anymore. I'm going to be mean. But I couldn't be. I'd almost made up my mind I was going to be mean, but I couldn't make it. So I've been sort of carefree ever since. Because my wife's been chipping away a little bit. So I don't think there's any need for me to be too serious. But we will talk about serious things. Okay, now we had a continuation of last night, a lady, well, to be more accurate, more truthful, last segment. And the last thing I remember is that she didn't know how to deal with her children, and her husband were ganging up on him because it took all the force they had to make him mind. And still he rebelled, right?
Right. I think that's what it's at right now. I did all the disciplining up to now, and I'm asking my husband to help me right now because it's getting very hard to cope with his tantrums.
Do you see the logic here? I'm asking my husband to help me. You really missed the point, you see. I want you to hear what you're saying, and maybe you should watch this TV show. You got to see your own silliness.
Probably.
I don't mean to
you're
ridicule.
right.
This is not for
Yeah.
ridicule. I just want you to see the silliness. I'm asking my husband to help me. Your husband is your helper. You got it backwards. You're his helper. Hamburger helper. Where is your husband?
He's right there.
Yeah, get him to stand up.
Yeah. It's about time he stood up. Come on. Thank you. Come into the limelight. Come. Yeah, see.
Can I finish my question
Yes,
anyway?
Are you older than your husband?
I look like it, don't I?
Yeah, you do.
No, I'm not.
Because all that burden, you like Jimmy Carter. The
Well-
longer you stay in office, the older you got, you got all the responsibility.
Yeah.
You got too much responsibility on you.
I feel like
You're
it.
getting old before your time.
Probably, yes. I feel that way.
And what you need to do, you want a mother or your wife? What do you want? The question is, do you want a mother or a wife?
Wife.
Well, then you have to turn her into one. Otherwise, she's going to turn you into a woman, to a son. And she doesn't mean to. She can't help herself. And then she's going to mess up all the kids. So you can hear the way her line of questioning is, somebody help me. And he won't help me to bring up the kids. So she's got it backwards. You got a role reversal here. Do you see what I mean? Do you have any comment?
No, I agree.
You agree?
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Is she older than you?
Oh no, she's younger than my youngest sister.
She is.
Yeah.
Well, you see what you're doing to her.
Yeah. We have a problem right now. She has, in the past, assumed the role of disciplining.
And why did you let her?
Pardon me?
Why did you let her?
Because she's more willful than I am.
And so therefore you're outgunned.
Well, yeah.
If you will hold that microphone towards his mouth, you'll pick up the sound better. Okay. Yeah, just turn it towards, rather than turning it towards his stomach. Don't stick it in his nose. That's what it is. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's... I guess up until now, up until the child has become 11, 12 and is starting to assert himself.
But he's asserting himself with your wife's will. That's what you're looking at. Well, you're looking at the extension of you, your projection, and and your child is rebelling against your will, and he's becoming you.
Right.
He's been violated by your authority, when it should have been saved by your authority. See? And that's what all children need. They need the love of a father to save them from the violating presence of their mother. Women, as they come out of the package, and women, I'm not against women. Now look, knock it off. Did you hear what I said? I'm not against, I love women. I love too much, that's what's the matter with me. That's what's the matter with you, you love too much. But it isn't love. It's compulsion. It's obsession. And anything you're obsessed by, thinking that it's love, will possess you and become the dominant will. And now you see, you're going to have to learn to revise your idea of what love is all about. In other words, your need for your wife, your sexual need, ego-sexual need, has made your wife dominant. Like the drug addict submits to the pusher for a fix which is like love. And therefore the pusher becomes dominant and he can't say no, because the pusher, through violation, has become the God, father, of the identity of the pushover. So therefore, a friend of mine was sitting here this evening coming from Chicago. It's a famous musician, believe it or not. And he says, he had a girlfriend. I was talking to him about how weak he was with his girlfriend. He gave her a car and being so nice to her, and she's snorting coke. And what is she snorting coke on? On the very picture of the man that violated her when she was 14. She's doing her lines, as he called it. I never heard his expression, but she's snorting the coke on the image of this person to get something. See, it is and women are the same way, and men are the same way. They get their jollies on the same image that was men marry their mothers. When their mothers are finished with them, their wives take over. They don't understand that so they're snorting their lines, so to speak, on this image. They're getting off, as they say, on the image of the female, when this image was basically the very spirit of that similar spirit to the mother that was dominant and took them away from their manhood and turned them into males that need reinforcement of females. Of course, the males not wanting to admit they're less than men also force women to be females, because they have to be the counterpart. They can't be women because women embarrass the male that is not a man. So therefore they have to be less than a woman, a female. They have to be degraded for a man to be accepted, and therefore he falls to accept the fix of her lower love, the love that comes out of her lowliness, her degradation, her willingness to be degraded. Why is she willing to be degraded? For a fix of power. The dope pusher is being degraded by the pusher. The dope addict is degrading the pusher, just like a woman is degraded by her husband. It's not the other way around. The dope addict is the one that, by his need, calls forth the worst in the pusher to fix him. So if you've got a problem in this society, it's not the pushers that you have to be concerned about. It's the weak, nothing, characterless people that populate this society. Sensuous. Well, where does it begin? It begins with men failing women, and men becoming less than men, fixated to the fix of the female form. And it goes on from one thing to another. And so you have to realize that you have inherited tragedy, misery, suffering, projecting your loveless state onto your next generation. You're not there for them. You're not there for your wife. Adam wasn't there for Eve, but Eve was there for Adam. That's what we've got, isn't it?
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, but it's the truth, isn't it? You see it.
Yeah.
See, it's very scary. And I must talk about this Adam and Eve thing because you see it operating between men and women, but you don't remember ever falling from grace. You never stood there as an Adam, taking the first fix from the female pusher. You don't remember that. But you wake up in a hell and you see it's going on between your mother and father, and you wake up in the hell and you see it's going on between you and your wife. It goes on, but you're not ever making a choice for this. You inherited this miserable state of a less consciousness through which all the misery and the horror is spawned in this world. So there must have been an original pair. Because I don't care if you go to darkest Africa, they're doing the same thing. In Timbuktu, they're doing the same thing. Same relationship exactly. You can't find anything different. A Jewish mother is the same as an Italian mother. Don't make any difference.
What is the woman to do when a man won't change?
Don't hate him.
Okay. I'm not...
Your problem is hating men. Women love to hate.
Mom, my mother did.
Listen, women love... Frame these words. Women love in order to hate. Because no sooner after she's loved a man, he becomes an object of hate. So the women have a problem that they have an unforgiveness in them. They have this hate of the failing of men that carries from generation. And the more they hate men, the more they're guilty they feel. The hate separates them. So therefore, it also separates them from truth and love in themselves. So the only thing they can fulfill themselves with is to love a man until he falls all over and gives her power. So in default of love, she has power. But power power builds her pride and makes her ugly. And she hates the man for making her ugly by his failing, by giving him sex. It's the sex thing, you see. Yes, ma'am. You can stand if you want to, if you continue.
I just have a quick question.
Sure, it's a quick question.
Why is it so clear I know all these women understand you so clearly, and the men, it's like they don't understand it.
They're schlemiels.
They don't.
Schlemiels.
No. What I'm saying is the men don't understand that the women see this. I mean, the women have this. I can't put it into words, but I mean,
Men are dumb.
Why
they're
are they
dumb
so
animals.
dumb? I don't mean to be rude.
I'm not
But-
being rude. Just tell the truth.
I know, but why are women so?
A woman can't tell a man. A woman can't tell a man what he. How can you tell a man to be a man? How do you do it?
And
What is the
they
man
don't.
first? We have to start with the definition. What is the man?
Is a man
How
who
do you-
does, a man is
How do you define man? You keep saying man.
yeah
But what is the definition of
a man
What
who
is
man who
the-
could stand up to a woman.
Well,
Well, what's the big
described
deal?
what man is
He
by
did.
talking
He
about
just-
Jesus when he first started the.
There you
first
are. He
segment.
got it.
He
You got
just
it.
did. He was.
You have to come in from the beginning. See?
Yeah.
Because you see, if you're not following what I'm saying, then you can say, "Well, what is man? I know what the hell you're talking about." But I spent 2
Yeah.
programs.
He just missed the whole
You
thing.
just missed. You missed the whole point. Is I think most of the ladies in the audience know what a man should be, right? You'd know one if you saw one.
Well, in the meantime. In the meantime, okay, let's say we're having this problem, and let's say my husband doesn't change, and I have to keep carrying the burden, and I have to keep saying I or we or whatever.
All right.
I
understand the question.
Okay.
Just don't hate him.
Will that make him change?
Do you know what turned you into a woman witch? Hating the man son of.
Excuse me?
Do I get a round of applause for that? You see? It's hating him. Hating him creates a pressure of guilt to sexually love him in order to have any love at all. Because you feel so empty.
Yeah, it doesn't start out that way because, until you need them, and then they're not there for you.
And then you hate him.
Yeah, I was fine until I needed him, and then when I needed him, he
But the
wasn't
trouble
there
is you're
for me.
very
But
willful.
of course,
The
after
trouble
the-
with you is you're too willful and improper with your need for him. You're still the boss, and how comes you see I need some help and you're not there helping me? You see, you are a very willful lady.
She knows she's very willful. She's
See?
very willful.
So therefore, with willful ladies, very often men, it's so hard to deal with a willful lady. They're very often perfectly good men who have perfectly good reason, but are not enlightened sufficiently to carry through with the thrust of reason. Just give up. Or they find some other woman who's more submissive or something. It's just too much to fight, to argue, fight. I've been doing it for 35 years, I know. The only thing is I'm enlightened, so I know where my role is and what my destiny is, and what I've learned is better than all the fun you could have in bed. It's worth more than that, you see, because that's not fun. That's death. It's sort of like just like a big swamp. Slowly takes your life away, and yet you let it kill you. You say, "What a way to die!" Stupid words come out, So what I'm saying is that what I've learned from this is, if my wife would have been easier, I don't think I would have learned. I wouldn't have been a great matador. So there's nothing wrong with having a strong wife. The trouble is you need to find the strength to overcome her, and she's what you need to practice your overcoming on. So you grab her by the horns and take your stand and learn to fight the good fight and win. But you mustn't be resentful to her. See, she's totally unreasonable. You know that, don't you? But you must not resent her unreasonableness.
I don't.
See, but you must not back away and sort of wimp out in the corner. You do it.
I know that.
In the meantime,
You know that, don't you? You've got to do that.
In the meantime, while he's grabbing me by the horns and
What about the boy, kid?
well, this is it. In the meantime, how can he help me with my son?
Is he doing it again? See,
I know now. I'm even saying my son.
See, here it
which
is.
which I told him on the
my
way.
son in whom I'm well pleased.
Isn't that something? Tonight I was even saying that, in the car to
It's
him.
his son, and you're his wife.
Mhm.
He's not married to you, you're married to him.
He's given them to me.
Don't you understand? I'm not married to my wife. The women libbers hate me for this. They're going to be parading around this foundation with placards, get him off the air.
You know, here you have a father that likes to have the children, you know, sit on their lap and hug and kiss, and then, you know, here, go off and then let your mother take care of you.
Well, that's wrong.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to...
But don't you see, your life with him has made it impossible or difficult for him to play that role because you're so willful. If he does something, if he corrects the kids, it will never be good enough for you. Is that right? If you correct him, you're not doing it right.
If I do anything, it won't be good enough.
It won't be anything wrong. A woman, when she's in power, is like a man should be. In other words, I'm as stubborn as heaven. I'm so stubborn, you don't even know how stubborn I get. And I won't let down and I won't let off until the point is across, one way or another. Now, that's a good thing to be strong in what you believe is right and not let down, because that's what a woman needs. And when that spirit is there, she will be back down and she'll be happy for it. Because her side needs to be overcome by your side. That's how she gets the mind of a man. And that's how the children love. They'll love the mind, the authority of the husband in the wife. They respect that military chain of command, and if it isn't there, you are King Kong with bloomers. See? That's right, see? But when a woman gets in power, she has the same masculine style. You know, you can love her, but you can't argue with her. See what I mean? You can worship her, but you don't dare correct her, because she's not correctable. And the more you try to argue with her, the more stubborn and confusing she becomes. What are you laughing at? It's your mother.
Exactly. And my husband, when he does correct me, he'll correct me. And then I start fighting him, even though I know I'm wrong, and then he stops. He never goes to the end to where he wins. You know what I'm saying? It's like, he can't handle me, forget it, you know? And what men don't understand is that they've got to fight to the end. They can't let her get away with it. Even they can't stop halfway.
But how many rounds are you gonna?
If it takes 1,000.
You don't ever yield to it.
But see, there's something in me that if he would go to, I will stop.
That little extra point, you'll know it and recognize it, and you'll back off and say, "Thank God, salvation's
He's
here."
done it before, but it's been very, very few times.
Men don't have patience. That's what I
No,
see.
they don't have love. They have too much love for the woman.
There's no patience, because when I'm trying to learn something and I ask my husband, could you explain this to me? If I don't get that, like Einstein, the tone changes immediately. And that's what I feel that I've needed all my life. And I thought if he would be patient with me. And when you were talking to that other couple, you were saying about the woman, I feel very ambitious when the gentleman said that even if he disciplines the son, it's not ever good enough. That's what happens in my home. But is it that we're so ambitious? I feel like I want to be in back of him. I know you're going to, I know your reaction to this, but when you say that, well, I feel like I should be in back of him, coaching him, because he seems to be...
Talking about that,
And
I'm talking to my sons, and I say, now look, now blah, 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 and I'm listening. And my wife's in the background saying, yes, listen to your father. Get out of here.
Well, see, that's what...
Do you know what she does? And pretty soon we're arguing with her. Don't forget what I'm correcting the kids about.
I have to...
The boys don't want their mother gingering up their father, and they don't want... the man must be able to stand on his own without the backbone of a woman. Am I right, ladies?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I don't hate women, honest. I'm just telling it like it is.
My family says that. In fact, this is what kind of started me on the meditation, is because I had 3 people complaining that when I came home, the house was different. And I grabbed my purse and my keys and I said, well, then you won't have to see me anymore. I stormed out. I sat in the car and I thought, well, wait a minute. The 3 of them are in there just happy as larks, having a good time. And I went
And then
back.
you come in.
And I come in and it's like, oh, she's home. And I thought, well, maybe it is me. Maybe I'm stirring up the
Can you
pot.
imagine what this foundation would be like if my wife took over? Everybody would run out the door.
So do we have a natural tendency to want to push the man too much into do this, do that, no, don't do this, or
Yes, in other words, you see, the trouble is that even when a man, let's say the man is doing it and he's doing it impatiently. After all, sometimes the man does take over, but this time he's impatient. Where does he get the impatience from? He's got it from the woman.
Okay. And sometimes he
He's
seems
got a
so
woman,
laid back.
he's correcting with the cruel. Let me put it this way. This is not put down for women. This is simply an observation of life as it is. But if you don't have the willing to see the truth of it, naturally you're going to think I'm putting you down. But men have a natural inclination to be gentle and kind and generous and thoughtful and wise and strong and brave, and women ruin it.
You're right.
Yes.
It's got to be
Feel
ruined.
that, yeah, I could feel that in my dad, and my mom absolutely ruined my dad.
But-
and
but
he's
you
always
understand-
had that.
Your mother ruined your dad, but your dad was set up by his dad to be ruined by all the moms that ever lived and will live. And see, what we're talking about is original sin. It's original because you don't remember originating it. You just remember inheriting it. And all you have to do is see if something's wrong.
I also feel that, my husband is...
Zip, hold it.
Oh, okay. Are we on
In 2 minutes. Okay, hang in there because we're going to come back for another serial tomorrow night. This is a cliffhanger. Well, oh yes, I have a radio program in Los Angeles, if we can afford to keep that one on. It's tough. If I put a collar on and looked very solemn and did all the usual, making you feel holy and sorry for me and blaming you because I'm not being able to do God's work, and it would work better, but I'm my usual jovial self. But maybe you can see the value in these programs, and maybe you'll just find it inside you to, cough up a little donation. Love offering. Yeah, that sounds so sloppy. Send me a love offering. As if you had love.
As if you could put it in an envelope.
Yes, if you could put it in an envelope. The reason why you find this program interesting is because you have no love. I'm guiding you to it. But how long do I have to wait so I can keep the program on the air? Be in the audience on Friday night. Call on the number on the screen for reservations, and thanks for listening.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello, everyone. It's me again. My name is Roy Master speaking. And we're having a lot of fun trying to find out the truth about what's wrong with our family life and why we can't bring up the children properly. And we're beginning to see why single mothers, as they call them, I have other names for them, but I won't say it this evening. Otherwise, they'll be parading around the foundation, get me off the air. It's the old-fashioned name for them. But single mothers, why they can't bring up family, why all the problems, the downfall of the society, there's no men around. And even when women are single, there's no men around. That's the problem. What are we going to do about it? Men have to come into their own. I think women need to give them a little space. If you have a husband, we were talking about willful wives in the last segment, and a woman bitching about the fact that she doesn't get enough help from her husband, as if she was in charge and he's the helpmate. See, it's no wonder we've got problems. We've got everything turned around. The man is the man, and the woman is supposed to be the helpmate, respectfully so. And it's you can't have two captains on a ship, otherwise they'll go both directions at once and sink. There's the average family. Trouble is, the man abdicates and she becomes the captain. And then we're in hell of a mess. And the problem of the society is the feminizing of America. And the feminizing of a country is the downfall of that country. The feminizing of Rome, the feminizing of France. You'll find all of the downfall of all the civilizations is the feminizing of this. There was an article not long ago in the Times, in the Time magazine, that women are not satisfied with the men. And they asked the dumbest questions, and they come up with the dumbest answers. They should have taken a notebook to what we are saying here this evening. Now, we've established some interesting facts, that men have to be there for their wives and for their children. And we've discovered why it is not so, because it's something called original sin. And that men are set up to fail by the failure of their fathers and the success of their mothers. See, and now, do we have any questions now to start the ball rolling this evening? Don't all rush at once. Yes.
I'm just puzzled about, you always talking about, the man having to assume this role. And yet, when I look around at the evidence outside, I see really basically that men are interested in Sunday football, Rambo, and I wonder with that kind of consciousness, the overwhelming consciousness, this kind of pride and this kind of competition that seems, with this kind of competition, is he equipped to automatically do what you think that it's automatically his responsibility to do?
That's a good question. It's a sort of hypothetical question. Either men become equipped or this nation is finished. That's all there is to it. And either they get out of their television sets and their beer parlors and their low-life friends and out of their filthy language, because that's also something to be into. They get out of the women, and they get out of their music, and they get on with their life as men. But you see, the trouble with men is that life is a game. It really is a game, and there are winners and losers. Now, there's certain forces in this society that wants us to be losers because they want to be winners. And that when you are a loser, you sense you're a loser. And losers don't know how to be winners. So how do you become a winner? You can identify with other people who seem to be winners. You can you can ride salvation on their coattails, so to speak. You can identify with the hero of a sports event, you see, and pretty soon you begin to feel his courage. You begin to feel his skills. You watch someone shooting down a ski lift and taking off into the air. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you're so enthralled at the skill and the dexterity and the courage of it that you find yourself identified with the hero, feeling his courage, feeling his strength. That's one way. But you're addicted, because the only way you have courage is to distract yourself from the fact that you don't, to give yourself the feeling that you do, which is a lie. And you live through that other person, you root for him, you yell and scream, because if he wins, you win. But God forbid if he loses, the poor guy's in trouble. He's in the doghouse. Right? You're depressed. You go out and get drunk. See, so the other game of winning, the other way of winning is you find games you can win. The kids today are into what those electric machines. What do they call them? Huh? Pac-Man and video games, and they spend all their money. I just watch these children. Whenever I go to a movie, there's those games again, and I walk up to the kids and say, that quarter you just put in there, if you saved enough of those quarters, you could have your own business one day. You have a nice bicycle or something. Sometimes it takes. I saw a kid walking down the street smoking a cigarette. I kind of recognized him as a neighbor, and I stopped him and I talked to him about that. I had my way. I'm not going to tell you what I said. I don't remember. I mean, that's 20 years later. So a kid says to me, I remember you stopped me on the street one time and changed my life. See, isn't that nice? Yeah. Took the trouble to do that. But because I remember I was just staying on this subject for a moment. I was in a drive-in movie with my kids, and there's this woman with her legs sprawled out, fat, 600 pounds if she was an ounce. These kids with popcorn all over the place, you know, just totally untidy. And, you know, I said, look, you look like a fine sight. I said, do you realize how you look? You know, I mean, I know what people are saying to you, to themselves, but, you know, your own effing business. Popcorn. The poor kids. You know, what a pig, you know. So my wife said, why do you mess with people like that? I mean, she says, why do you mess with the pigs like that? I said, I don't know it's a pig until I hear it oink. Because you don't know. You really don't know. You can't say, so I'm on my way to Oregon to do one of my seminars. And this man's yelling at this kid, stop crying, you stupid idiot, stop crying. I said, just a minute. You know, you're smacking him on his bottom and his leg. Stop crying and knock it off. Stop crying. I walked up to myself, if I slapped your face right now, made you cry, then slapped you for crying. I said, I'm a psychologist. I always say that in moments like that because they can't refute authority. You see, I haven't got time to argue. These little numbskulls, when I go on the radio program, they always ask, well, what, if you tell the truth and it bothers everybody, they'll say, well, what authority do you speak? They ask Jesus the same thing. If you don't have a degree, you know, they won't believe you. So the thing to say to these people is when they say, well, what authority, what right do you have, what authority? I said, well, let me ask you a question. If I was an authority, if I had degrees, would you believe me? You stick him there, you see. If he says yes, well, you're stupid. Because I might be telling you a whole bunch of lies. If you're the only way you know what right and wrong is because authority says it right, therefore it must be right. If I told you 1 and 1 was with 3, you'd believe it, wouldn't you? Shouldn't make any difference. It just shows you how stupid you are. I mean, why can't you just recognize the truth when you see it? So, there's not good motive. The people have to have their authorities. The sick people in the world, they have their authorities, and Christ was an authority. I'm an authority to you. You don't have no degrees. You know that, don't you? I've always told you I was 4th in my class, but I was only 4 in the class. You've heard that before. See? That's true. So, there's no reason why you should believe me at all. But you should be able to believe me. You should be able to believe a Dickie Bird if he told you the truth. What difference does it make? You have something in you to recognize it. But those people, they live by these strange ways, and they have to have their champions of their strange ways to justify the. See, people are very strangely motivated. I just want to get into this a little bit. They're very strangely motivated. In other words, if you're not motivated by some inner light and understanding, if you're not grounded as a complete whole person, and you want to do something selfish, do you know you can't do it unless you find somebody who agrees with you and lets you do it? You know why people get married? Because man marries his mother to let him do what he wants. Men can't be motivated. They cannot get what they want in life unless they have someone to justify it and to motivate them towards it and to free them from their conscience to have it. They also need their psychologist to justify their way of life, you know. Now I come along and say, well, your problem is love, your problem is ambition, your problem is sex, your problem is not being motivated by the inside, your problem is being selfish. Well, they hate that because that's the truth. They don't want that paralyzes them again, so they rush to their authorities. They rush out to their psychiatrists and their professors, you see, to soothe it over. They listen to their preachers preach to their itching ears. They hear what they want to hear. They want to hear the truth. So those people, they have to have their authorities. But you don't need an authority because you love God and you love the truth and you've been searching for it. And because you've been genuinely searching for it, you can recognize it when you see it. Because those who love the truth already have a little bit of truth in them. The truth has already come to them, unknown to them. And you're already resonating. It's that yearning, it resonates. So that when you hear something of your own kind, of your own destiny, of the mind you want to come back to, you recognize it. You're glad of it. But these other people, forget them. They're dead from the neck up. Pretty soon they'll be dead from the neck down. Am I right? So but the trouble is, these are the authorities you put your children in front of and say, teach them. Teach them. The biggest mistake you ever made in your life. Because they're from the other world. They're from the other side. They're not coming from where we're coming from. And they're gonna make sure that your kids don't go there either. They don't represent where I'm coming from. They represent the other side. I've called it the spirit of intellect. There's the spirit of truth and the spirit of intellect. The spirit of intellect is from the other side. The Garden of Eden. What represented wrong? What represented the downfall? Pride. Man coming into his own cleverness. Intellectual knowledge. The spirit of the intellect biting into the fruit of the knowledge of good. Everybody having their own sense of knowing of right and wrong. Not the true right and wrong, but we can justify anything by those champions and by our own sense of right and wrong. What we think to be the truth has something to do with what we want. If we want it, it must be the truth. So let's find somebody who has scientific evidence that agrees with that. Smoking's not wrong, is it, Joe? Right? We always find a Joe that says, no, they haven't proved that smoking is bad for you. You stick it right in front of their nose as they stick the smoking and drugs and marijuana and cocaine, and you can show pictures of people dying, falling over dead, and clinical proof. No one's ever proved that smoking, they can't see it, don't you see? What you don't want to see, you don't want to see. You believe the tobacco agencies. You believe there, even though it's written written right on the carton, smoking has proven to be dangerous to your health. This is poison, skull and crossbones. No one's proved it yet by me. I enjoy it. We only live once. See, it is a mentality. And you cannot save these people from themselves. So even when you have scientific proof, they still won't believe it. As long as whatever they're doing is somehow supportive of the, something they want. Something as valuable. Smoking is a way of denying truth, isn't it? Like drug addiction. So no, they don't want to hear any evidence that takes that away from them, because if you take that away from them and they give up the smoking, they have to face themselves. So if the ego is not ready to face itself, if it loves all its selfishness, it loves its selfish desires, and a lot of people do. They love that sensuous life. If you take that away, they have to face the truth. And the ego is not ready to face the truth, has to smoke, it has to drink, it has to do anything, and it cannot see anything wrong with that. Because that's what makes it feel right. That's what rationalizes. That's what justifies it. That's what it makes it feel good. That's what takes the consciousness, the edge, the guilt off the guilt. See, so I don't know. A lot of people think I'm crazy. See, a lot of people listening to me think absolutely I'm crazy. So they'll go on their merry way and they go to their church and they'll have the preacher rationalize. They go to their friends and say, smoking is right, isn't it, Joe? See, it's okay to sex yourself to death, isn't it? Yes, Joe. But it's all the spirit of the intellect. The spirit is the serpent. The serpent, the snake in the grass. It's everywhere, and its arguments are elaborate. They can make words say anything they want to say. They could confound the most sophisticated of wise men. I mean, they have these elaborate arguments. The only thing that will separate you, the only thing that can save you, is to see by the light of truth that doesn't make a bit of sense. When you take a homosexual, for example, and you listen to all the things he says about homosexuality, about the proofs, and about the scientific evidence, and God knows what they go on with, how much it's love, and, you hear him talking about as though it was the most beautiful thing in the world, and that they really have love, and they seem to be devoted towards one another, and they have love for your children. And what you got is a woman man in there. And it's an intellectual spirit, and it's a very clever, confounding, smooth, highly sophisticated snake. And the only thing you could do, it doesn't make sense to you. All you can do is see that it doesn't make sense. The only thing that can save you is not some kind of standard that you've learned in school, but something deep within you that you've longed for and that says, can't buy it. No matter what they say, no matter how good the argument, maybe you don't have an argument, but you can't buy it. Now, you have to find that deep understanding in yourself, and you have to guide your children to it. Otherwise, we have to send those kids out of here. I won't do any more magic tricks for you. You have to have respect for me. Okay? Please. Thank you very much. Good. Any questions? I expected you to have some very profound questions this evening. You don't have any questions for me about school or anything like that? No? All right. Well, okay. Now, yes.
I have a question. I'm a daycare provider and preschool teacher.
Yes.
And gosh, I didn't think I was going to get up the nerve to come up here and talk.
Doesn't make me nerve.
It does, being on TV. I was just wondering, because see, I work with kids, and I really love kids a lot. I don't know, I just have like this, I've always had this attraction toward kids and just being near kids.
Maybe we ought to examine that.
Well, I like kids. I think I'm good with kids.
Have you ever seen the old ladies at the cash register?
I'm not that way. I know.
You know, you could love kids in a very...
Yeah, I know.
Hello, dearie. What a lovely little baby.
No, I'm not like that.
The baby cringes, right?
Yeah. Well, I think what it is, I don't know. I'm good with kids.
Okay.
But I'm not that way. I know that kind, but...
The question
is,
now you've told me how
dealing with
wonderful you are.
parents and children,
Yeah.
okay, I kind of see how there's a lot of parents that really don't know what love is.
They don't, it's true.
And it's just really sad because they come into, I just see that there's a need for my business, and, if it wasn't...
But the trouble is your business attracts the wrong kind.
Yeah. It does. It kind of attracts the
bloodsuckers.
Yeah, well, they have the children, and they're just, to me, they don't know what they have.
The mind molders.
But they have the children, and they just, it's like there's so many working parents nowadays that just mothers are working and they're in the work field, and
you think that's
really,
wrong, don't you?
Yeah, I see
mothers
something
shouldn't
wrong
be
with
working,
it.
should they, ladies?
And
do you agree that mothers should be working?
Yeah, and it's like...
Do you agree that mothers should be working? You want to get rid of your mother? Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's like the kids will respect me and listen to me real well. I have a way with kids, and I discipline them, I correct them, I'm very firm with them. And yet, when a parent comes in, like mother comes in, it's like, all of a sudden, I don't recognize the child anymore. It's like, they run around and they're just like, okay, Mom, can I have some candy? And what do you have in your purse? And I'm just looking at, they don't act that way. They don't behave that way with me.
No.
And I just wonder, it's like, and so I get a lot of questions like, well, what do you think I could do about this?
There's not much you can do, is there?
Well, I understand. You've taught me a lot by the, by...
The thing you can do is what you are doing, so that when they grow older, they remember... See, there was an article in the newspaper not long ago, I wish I had it here, but the substance of it was that they had done these tests and found that 1 in every 10 children are survivors, that they can no matter how bad their mothers and fathers are, alcoholics, wife beaters, and God knows what, which is the majority, I'm sorry to say. No one ever said that on television before, but it's true. The home lives in America is horrible. There are a few halfway decent home. Parents are hardly ever right. But this article said that no matter how bad these parents are, the children somehow, there's 1 in 10 survives. They grow up to be cheerful, motivated, they teach themselves under the most adverse circumstances, but they do find an adult in their life that whose qualities they admire, and they attach themselves to that adult. That adult may be you. You may be the one person in their life, it's a thankless task because
Well,
there won't be any hoorays. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
kind of feel that way. I kind of feel like what I'm doing is I have an opportunity to be able to talk to parents because I can hear what you're saying so clearly, and the role of the father, the role of the mother, how important it is, and I see how, I'm not married, I don't have any kids, but like, I think, there's not
Well,
even...
some guy's going to be a lucky guy.
Yeah, but there's not even that need anymore. I used to be, well, I didn't want to have that, but it's like I see so many kids that just don't have love, and it's so sad.
I know.
And they're just sort of
That's
like...
what's wrong with our society.
And,
There's no love in it.
yeah.
It's all sex on television and violence, and it's just music, and it's all these strange values that are being taught in school. Ambition, get ahead, make money, but no character, there's nothing of the spiritual and the moral and the noble and the brave. That's not held up anymore. Everything to make those children into little animals, to fill up the prisons and to give social workers. After all, in the social workers, the welfare system, 85% of the money goes to 2 million people who administrate to the poor. Only 15% goes to the poor. It doesn't make sense. See, so it's a big business to keep you in jail, and
It's been...
nobody really wants. The prisoners in the jail, they know they're smart. They know nobody wants to help them. They just go through the motions. See, nobody. It's a system. We have a system within a system in this country. An invisible government. We're dealing with evil, inhuman agency. Thank you very much. Well, we got 2 minutes to say that half an hour went by pretty quick, and but it'd been nice if I had more. We had more fun the last two segments, with you interacting with what I had to say. But we'll save that for our next segment. We'll be in our audience on Friday nights. Just call the foundation, the numbers on the screen, for reservations. I have a radio program in Los Angeles, 9 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday at 870 on the dial. It's KIV, so you can listen to me there too. I'm not sure that I can support myself on this program much longer. It'll just be pulled off, no warning. It just won't be there. All I can say, and you can hear me on radio. So I do appreciate those who have been kind enough to send in a donation, so hang in there. And let's hope the others will pick up the slack and help us. Now, everything I've said is based upon a simple principle of meditation, anti-hypnotic discipline, so you learn how to deal with the stresses of life and be who you are meant to be. Otherwise, you are something else to your children. And there's no authority in the home, no happiness in the home. You can't be you can't be the extension of what's in the world from your parents and your parents' parent, and be an authority and be happy and expect to survive, and your children too. Thank you for listening. Get the materials, and be back with you on our next program. Hello, welcome once again to the program. The subject is still parenting and children, and if you've been watching this far, I think you'll agree that I guess you can see it in your own life with your own parents, that the problem with kids is parents, and if psychology is true, and sometimes it is, that if children are reflections of their environment, and you've got a lot of crazy, misguided, sick kids in the society we do, then it's a reflection of grown-ups, adults, parents, teachers. I can see what children see. I remember seeing what all children see today. As a matter of fact, it's so much worse today. Parents, teachers, adults, authority, there's the word, are so much more bizarre and stupid and gross. You know, when I was a little kid, I could see they were stupid and gross, and I had little perceptions. And no one had to tell me. It was just, how could people act that way? How could they smell that way? How could they look that way? How could they think that way? How can they talk that way? How can they look that way? How can they walk that way? It just, everybody looked like to me, like they didn't belong in their clothes. They didn't look right in their clothes. They probably looked worse without them. But nothing seemed to fit with what they did. And the problem with children, as I see it, is a problem with authority. Where the minute you're born, you're surrounded with these bums. These people who are little more than grown-up kids themselves, conformist rebels with their weird, strange ideas of what right and wrong is, laying their trips on you and giving you homework, which you're not bloody well interested in, you know, and who cares? Sitting in front of an impatient bore 6 hours a day who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, and even if they did, you're not interested. And even if it was interesting, you couldn't be interesting because it's just their attitude. Pressure, 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 pressure. Turn in your homework. Do this, do that. Stand up, turn right. No freedom, no. The child can't grow. He hates those authorities. They're just trying to make him fit into some kind of mold that they were fitted into. And it's almost like they're bound and determined to sacrifice us to what they were sacrificed to. And they're everywhere, wall to wall, it's everywhere. And who can you go to? It's like, what's that movie, The Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Remember that? Everybody sort of got sucked into this cocoon and got blown out. You know, they looked alike, but they were different. And so everywhere you go, you can hardly tell it. But they've been body snatched. And there's somebody else in there. And it looks like your mother, and it looks like your father, and it looks like your teacher trying to help you, but they're trying to screw you up. Am I right? So the kids today have a problem. They're in a rebellious mode. It wasn't long ago before they wanted to hang everybody, you know, over 30. Because now that they're over 30 themselves, they think a little differently about it. But there was a generation like that. But the generation is still confounded. Children come into the world and they see that the world is mad and there's no one to go to. Am I right? Mother's crazy. Father's lets her be crazy. Father comes home drunk, watches TV, doesn't care. Teacher teaching him some dumb phonics, some kind of way of reading that he doesn't understand. He has to learn every single word rather than learn to make his own words. It doesn't make sense. A lot of things don't make sense in this world, but they're made to look like they make sense. The news doesn't make sense. If you've got brains, you can see that they're twisting the news, and you can see them twisting the news, and you know what the truth is. You can get the truth. The truth is everywhere. Even you can see people twisting things. You can see people slanting things. You can see their prejudice, but you can also see the truth. You can see what they're hiding. And children are very perceptive. They know the truth. They know the world's crazy. How they know it, they don't know how they know it, but they just know it. But the trouble is, there's so many crazy people that eventually they begin to think, well, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe there's something they start to doubt themselves. And pretty soon they say, well, maybe I am crazy, so they try to get in and to be accepted, and then they can't get back. They're not happy, and they're not happy where everybody else is. Everybody seems to be happy, smoking, snorting coke, and God knows what they do. But when you get into that, you can't quite fit. You can't enjoy their enjoyments, you see. And so we have a problem in society with authority. Unless parents and teachers start to wake up to this fact, we have a lost generation, except for the small percentage of survivors. I'm a survivor. You're survivors. There's a lot of people in this world that have survived their parents. As a matter of fact, it's a very good time to mention how to survive your parents. This book would be good to read if you could meditate and learn to get back into your center from which you've fallen, responding to these authorities. Because there's one thing about authorities, they all have one thing in common, that they make you angry, they make you doubt yourself, and they rebirth you, they recreate you in their image. So once you fall to their pressures and temptations and doubt yourself, it's like a psychic jujitsu. You fall and you cling and you get your direction from them, and you become like them, you become body snatched. That's why I have this meditation. At the end of the program, you need to take note. It's not anything that you've ever experienced before. It's a way of an antidote, the anti-logos, to the logos, the word of the world. How to give up responding to authority so you can be your own person again. Because your problem is, you little kids out there, because all of you little kids inside, you've never grown up. You've never really grown to be your full human potential, because you're still reacting like kids to the parent authorities of the world around you, aren't you? And you marry one. You marry your father, you marry your mother. Then you become your mother, you become your father, and the kids then react to that authority in you, and off on it goes, in the sins of the fathers projecting into every generation from whenever to wherever. Yes, young lady.
Wanted to ask, I'm a grandmother, and my granddaughter doesn't accept me in her home, and my son told me that I should, not be there that often.
Why have they done this?
She says because she, like you say, it's like a little prison. She has them do all the housework.
The children?
And she said I was taking them away from, just talking with them, and they couldn't do what she had told them to do.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm getting the whole truth here. There are two reasons why your children won't want you to be around their grandchildren. There are two reasons. One, because you're good, and they're bad, and they don't want you interfering with their little kingdom, right? And so they don't want their children to see what goodness is. They just got laying there. So there's one reason. But there's another reason that the children are good. Your kids are good, and they've seen what you've done to them. And if they bring their kids around you, you'll ruin them too. So they ask you to stay away. You have to decide which that is. You don't have...
I think it's because I try to talk to them. I really don't know, but I think that it just bothers her for me to be around.
Yeah, but the botheration is because you ruin them, and they see that you're a meddling old grandmother, and that you'll spoil them and seduce them away from the parents' authority, and ruin them, and don't want to leave you alone with them. Or you are a good person, and maybe you were that way once upon a time, for which reason you have crazy kids. Now these crazy kids have wills and egos of their own, and they don't want to be corrected. And when they start to see that you listen to Roy Masters and you belong to this crazy cult, whatever that's how they'll see it that way anyway. They don't want you around because they like what they like what they are, and they're busily creating little clones in their image. You see, that's what.
And it's hard to see how the children are turning out, because they're hurting so bad.
I know.
My grandson was telling me how bad he was hurting, so I told him about the meditation, and
How old is your grandson?
he's 14.
Oh, he's that old, is he? You look very young for a grandmother.
And he, so I told him a
I was
little bit
thinking you
about.
were 3 or 4 years old.
Pardon me?
I was thinking they'd only be about 3 or 4. She looks very
I
young
have
for her age.
3 and 4 years old, but he's 14, and he was noticing that he was acting mean to his little
He
brothers.
noticed his own self and he didn't want to be that way.
Like his mother, and he told me, I don't know why I do that. And so that's when I told him about the best way I could about the meditation,
They do hang around you sometimes then, don't they?
very, very seldom.
But they see
But I
something
live
in...
right next door, but they don't come to
Oh,
my
that's...
house.
But does he come out, does he sneak out and see you sometimes?
Once in a while.
Yes, you see, it doesn't matter that these contacts with you or a respectable person, that the surviving child, whether it's a grandmother or whether it's a school teacher or some friend, has those qualities which they seek for themselves. They recognize that and they attach themselves. Don't worry, that child will seek you out, whether he's 14, 15, 20. There'll be a time when he'll be free from that rat race, and he'll come to you, and you'll be his friend.
I just wonder about the smaller ones.
I know, it's very sad. I see, parents in grocery stores, and you see them yelling and screaming. You see the look, and you say, "Don't talk to this child this way." And they're not aware of it. These people are not. These people are out of it. And you talk to them, it's like you did something wrong to them. And how are you going to save them? There's no way. I mean, I can't go around saving everybody, stopping every mother from having an abortion. There's murders going on all the time. Parents ruining, violating, damaging their children's souls, emotionally crippling them. It goes on every day, and this is a free country. This is America. One of your founding fathers said something nice. He said, well, it wasn't nice. He said, freedom gives every man the right to become his own dictator. See, that's the problem with it. I don't think we deserve freedom here. I really think we don't deserve it, to tell you the truth. Because where do you find free people? Show me a free American, I'll show you a chicken with teeth. Because they're afraid of freedom. That's why they're into their dope and smoking. Some of your most sophisticated statesmen, they're snorting coke, not in front of you, but they're smoking cigarettes in front of you. That's the evidence. They're addicted. They're dope addicts. We're so used to it's legal. It's legal to smoke, so therefore, you do it openly. But when you see a person smoking a cigarette and he's in a position of power, he can't have the right judgment. Well, why is he smoking? Because he doesn't want the right judgment. If he had the right judgment, he'd feel guilty. If he's smoking his awareness away. He's now left alone with his intellect to come up with the answers for you, which are, what did I say about the spirit of the intellect? It's always an answer that produces bigger problems. He may be a nice enough person on the surface, he may manage his surface behavior, but the woman who's married to them, that man can tell you what he's like. Nobody else sees that. He's not in charge of his own life. The woman who's married to him knows that. Yet he's the mayor of the city, he's running a city. The mayor of Los Angeles, he's got kids who are on dope. Doesn't that tell you something? His personal life doesn't mean he can't run his own family. He doesn't have respect for his own daughter because his daughter knows him better than you do. He's got this image of himself, and you don't know him that well, but he's running the city. It's a little scary, actually. There's also people running the world. And anyway, yes.
Mr. Master,
I'm getting off on the subject here.
I had another question too. My daughter is 15 and she lives with her dad, and he allows her to have a boyfriend.
Sleep in the house?
And he just there every day, and they go to school together every day. And I just talk to her about it.
Do you
But
want me to talk about that?
I
You,
didn't.
you parents, girls of 16 don't need any boyfriends.
But he doesn't tell her.
Especially boys of 15 don't need any girlfriends. I know, but don't complain to me. I can't help it. I'm just speak to you about the principle of it. So I know that it's wrong. Your father, your husband isn't there for your children. I can hear you. You're just going to have to give them different advice and hope that that you do it with the kind of love and concern that successfully conveys to them the way you are dealing with your 14-year-old grandson. See what I mean? We hope that they look to you, and if they don't, to hell with them. What can you do? See what I mean? They may have to. If they can't learn from wisdom, they learn from pain. And then most people don't even learn from pain, but at least pain is the great awakener. About boyfriends and girlfriends at 15 or 16 years old, let me tell you something. A man of 60 years old is not equipped to deal with a woman, let alone a 16-year-old. A 4-year-old girl is more than a match for a 40-year-old man, I guarantee you. Okay? She's got more going for him than he does. To allow children to become sexually and psychologically entangled with a girlfriend is the most damaging and most dangerous and most harmful and rottenest thing you can do to your male child, as well as the female child. Because at that early age, to allow them the promiscuity and the familiarity, which can only be successfully managed with great discipline and wisdom and maturity of spirit and mind by a 30-year-old man, is setting them up to be totally addicted and to wimp out and to become a violent or very violent person, setting them up to have such conflict that could only be soothed by dope and music and severe forms of addiction. It's destroying them, collapsing their infrastructure, destroying their manhood, and setting up a different kind of matriarchal hierarchy, sexual matriarchal hierarchy. So it's to destroy the hearts and souls of children. Every society that is who's been over fascinated with sex, preoccupied with sex, is doomed for the garbage can. Keep your young male children separate from the females, with all the persuasion and gentleness you have, by explaining to them the principles, if you know what they are, about morality and indulging when they start to ask you those questions, until the time of maturity. It's better for a child to be male to be about 30 years old or 35 before he marries, because he's got to manage, he's got to develop, he has to be a champion. Women want a champion. Women don't have to be champions. Women want a champion because the champion's going to save them from their tower. He's going to save her from it. But how can you, a man who's a champion, how can a man ever get to be a champion if he gets screwed up with women when he's 14? Because he's got all the championness drained out of him by the time he gets to 30. There's nothing there to do any championing. Only something to be sorry for. That's about the only relationship women have with men. They feel sorry for them. And they love them. It's called being sorry for them. And they finish off what was started a long time ago. They take the rest of him. And that's the rest of the story. So I don't know if you want to take up on that subject, but you know, you have a racehorse and you let it win you a lot of money, and you don't put it out to stud until, well, it just can't run so hard anymore, and now you make better use of it. You put out, you reproduce stallions and offspring of a like character. You put them out to pasture and let them sit by the telephone. See? Take orders. So, say they put them out to pasture and to stud, and that's fine. But when do you do that? You do that when when the horse is successful, when it's run a good track, when it's run a good course. It's the same way with men. When the young men, if they get entangled with women too much and become addicted, the abilities are yet to unfold. But their preoccupation with women and sex becomes so great, and guilt, that, well, just like a dope addict, the more he gets his fix, the less of a person he becomes. While he thinks he's becoming more of one, he's becoming less than one, isn't he? More is less. See? So that the guilt catches up with him, and he feels this emptiness and anxiety, so he goes back to dope again. And then the dope fixes it, makes him feel good, but more is less. See? And then he discovers that he's less, but he doesn't want to admit ego, so he becomes more. He thinks he's a king when he's becoming a pauper. So all of his life is drained out into this obsession of fixing his needs, and he never grows up to be a racehorse because he never ran the course because he got to be a stud too early. Got it? And then what is there to admire? He couldn't even run the course right. So what you got left is some kind of drip, some pile of spaghetti, some weak noodles. And the only reason why he'll breed, he'll get married because some woman's sorry for him and tries to make a man out of him. So what you got, this woman who enjoys feeling sorry for men, also has some guilt in her life to make up for. And what you're doing is women being attracted to lesser men, because that's all there is. So what you have a society with downbreeding, a society where this whole society is being downbred. We don't have a race of noble achievers, and then when they get to be 35, then you can have a family, you can be a stud for a while. You know what I mean? Because you have the wisdom and the brains and the experience and the knowledge and the strength that has been, well, it's accumulated from the race, from the involvement with life and succeeding, and from character to growth and development. But in order for that to happen, men have to be kept apart from women, or they have to be instructed as to how to deal with women. No sex before marriage. Deal with the ladies as they were ladies, like they were your sister. If they tempt you, don't fall. They'll have more respect for you. You'll have more respect for yourself. Sex is not the place just for fun. See? You can't be just an opportunity to get it where you can, because all that is evidence of your weakness, and you are weak, and your weakness will continue to evolve. See? I guess I carried this program all by myself, didn't I? But you're all drying up. Maybe we'll have some more discussions, and yeah, we can say that for the next set. But maybe it becomes a springboard for our next discussion. All right? It's starting to awaken some questions in you, isn't it? Or have I given you all the answers already? I raised the question and answered the questions. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, How to Survive Your Parents is a book. You should read it. But we have some material at the end of the program flashed on the screen, which is more important than this book. But it will teach you how to meditate, how to control your emotions, how to get control of your sexual functions. Otherwise, your brains get controlled through the fact that you can't control it. Every man knows that his brains, he has two brains like a dinosaur. See? And they're both fused together in one place, unmentionable. And women control them through that, you see. And their souls never grow. They never grow. So the meditation will teach you how to deal with women, deal with your mother. Women will teach you to deal with men, to be controlled, disciplined, not let the world stimulate you or make you grow or makes you subject to their will. Write to the Foundation of Human Understanding and listen to my radio show Monday through Friday on KIEV 870 on the dial. We have a whole hour together. Meanwhile, we hope this program will stay on the air. It will be pulled without notice. It's pretty thin, so I'm staying in there, the course, as long as I can. But thank you for those of you who have supported us so far. Thank you for listening, and join us tomorrow night.
The Foundation of Human Understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the Foundation of Human Understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello, welcome once again to the program. We're talking about children, and we're making a lot of headway, and I want to be interrupted by this delightful audience. Otherwise, I tend to get on a roll, and I won't stop. So don't think I'm so holy that I can't be interrupted, okay? Okay, I appreciate it.
I have a 9-year-old son, and I'm finding that I can't let him play with very many kids or
Why is that?
anybody really.
As if I didn't know.
Well, he leaves and comes home after playing with him a day, and he's a different kid.
He's different.
He's not himself.
You gotta-
And I have to not knowingly to him, take him away. You know, it doesn't go around for a while, and he's back to his normal self.
I remember when Mark was 9 years old, he was smart enough not to want to play with those kids. He says, "Dad, take me out of this school because these kids are crazy."
Mm-hmm. See, I homeschool my kids,
Yeah,
and
better
a
off.
part of them, when school starts in September and all the kids are going in school, there's a part of him that wants to go. He doesn't understand why he can't go, and for a while that bothered me. But now I realize
He's better off.
he's better off, and he'll
They'll
appreciate
tell
it
you,
when he gets
the
older.
educators will tell you that it's good to be, that your children go out and be gregarious and mix with other kids, and all they're going to learn is from other kids is what's wrong from them, added to their own wrong, and their wrong will be projected to those other. You put a lot of prisoners in a big jail cell, they don't come out any better. They come out worse. You put crazy people in a society, in an insane asylum, and you let them walk around with each other. What do you think that does? They all make each other worse.
I have to keep him away from nieces also.
In other words, our society is crazy,
Yeah.
right? And those kids have already been destroyed by their parents.
Mm-hmm. And they're young.
The infrastructure of their souls has already collapsed. The character is disappearing, and then you can't leave they're cruel. The children are so cruel to one another. My son used to say, "Dad, those kids are crazy, and they want me to give up my values." Listen, 9 years old. They want me to give up and go along with them to get their acceptance. And he said, "To hell with that." He used to have talks with me. I said, "You're quite right, son." And I talked to the teachers, and they said, "You should take this kid out of school. He's too smart for these kids." They're dragging him down like a bunch of jackals.
Do you have to keep him totally away, or I mean,
Well,
is it, you've got to.
He was already damaged, but his spirit was kind of unscathed. There's some part of us that gets damaged, and we can get damaged in many parts of us, but very often the soul somehow survives. You know what I mean? It still has innocence in it. We can suffer a lot at the hands of other people. And so that part of him survived, and he had enough experience with the kids in school by the time he was 11, really not to want to have anything common with the little scumbags that called it, I'm sorry to say, has to be said. The children today are not children. They're old men. They're degenerates. Aren't they? I'm sorry to say, and the parents have ruined them, the schools have ruined them, and no one's owning up to who's causing it. It's what we call authority. So we have a very sorry state on our hands, and I don't know, President Reagan said, some subcommittee said, if a foreign government had done this to our children, it would be a tantamount to an act of war. But we can't find the people who did it. I know they did it, but I can't be political. See?
I mean, you can't lock your kids up in a closet.
No, but my son, and gradually my other kids too, who were I took them out of school later, but I took my youngest one out when he was 11, so he had a better chance. He survived. He learned everything he needed to learn. I just watched him grow. I just exposed him to all kinds of neat things, and he took to it like a duck to water, and he grew from one thing to another, and because he wasn't involved with the kids and parties and snorting and music, well, he had time to be interested in everything. So what keeps your children from growing, then this is an interesting thing, what keeps your children from evolving is all these distractions. Dancing, Boy Scouts, there's nothing wrong with Boy Scouts, but basically too much TV, wrong kind of friends, music. It takes their energy, it takes their attention. So what happens is, where your attention is, there is your identity coming in through that, see? What holds your attention takes your mind away from the inner growth process and creates an external reciprocal flow so that you take on the identity of the world. See, so therefore when you're not involved with all that, then you start to see things you're interested in, and you start to have hobbies, and you start learning, and you start attracting to your mind the things which are compatible with your unfoldment. And so that's what happened to him. So now he's 22 years old, and he's running a business with 8 salespeople in real estate, and they're building houses, but he learned how to build houses all by himself. He took the real estate course. He's a broker, and he's a construction. He has his construction license, contractor's license, and did all that. He learned mathematics by building, and he hasn't been to school since he was 11. It's too late now. You can't get me. See, the thing is, I hid him from the world, and he survived, and because he survived, well, a lot of other kids are going to be helped. He's going to be a light on the hill. So my other sons and daughters are the same way. They're going to be lights on a hill, and they are example to everybody loves those children. They respect them. There's something bright and noble about them that draws to themselves like-minded young people. And that's what the business is all about. They're gathering to themselves like-minded, noble young people, and that business is going like wildfire. Listen, my son Alan, he has his own car business. He's 25 years old, and this is time for bragging, I suppose. But from nothing, just giving him an engine. I gave him an old broken engine to work on, an old car. He cuts it up and puts it together again. He wants to learn welding, so he goes to welding school. He quits halfway through, but he learned what he needed to learn. He said, I don't need that piece of paper. I already can do it. So what is he doing? He's cutting cars in half and taking it together. He's using it and making money already when he was 19, 17. But now, cut a long story short, he loves cars. He loves it. Where is he now? He has his own car business. People love him. He buys wrecked cars and with body damage on it, but with low mileage. People buy these cars from him because you can't tell. The mechanical part is more important than the body. So people get a nice car, nice looking car, but low mileage, and they drive it for a couple of years, and maybe they sell it for what they paid for it and do it again. It's fun. So he's got a thriving business. He's got 6, 7 people working for him. He's sitting now in a restaurant having a rap session with his with all his body people and sales people. 26 now. Has his own home, and he's got about $200,000 worth of cars sitting out there. He's borrowed money from some people, but he's learned to borrow money from bank, and he's learning accounting and business. That's better than going to school. He's learning all by the seat of his pants, developing character. This is what you should do with schools, by the way. sitting here in this restaurant, having a little powwow with all these salespeople and chewing them all out in a nice way. And people came into the restaurant, they sat down, and pretty soon he had a big crowd in there listening to the sales. They're so fascinated they want to buy cars from him, because they never heard anything like this before in their whole life, the way he was talking to those salespeople and to the mechanics and to the body people. And they loved it. They were learning something. He was a good boss. He's going to be a good father. The people that work under him are going to benefit from it. They're going to go home better human beings, not come home bummed out, take the frustration out on their kids and wife. He counsels with them with their problems as the extension of his love, of his work. See, this is, what do you have when you go to work? Nothing else but frustrations, backstabbing, yelling, motivating, pressuring, the same kind of stuff that you had when you were at school. And they set you up to be producers. Early burnouts. If you didn't burn out at school, you burn out at work. Is that right? This is an insane asylum we have. There's no... You're slaves. That's all you are, slaves, and if you get money. Is that right? Here I'm giving a lecture again. Tell me to shut up. Anyway, there's another lady that had something to say. There's a lady here, this beautiful yellow, it photographed so nicely.
This has nothing to do really with talking about kids. This has to do with, we're talking about born again Christians.
Yes.
Fornicating.
Fornicating.
Before marriage, okay? What do you say will happen to a man? Okay, they are fornicating outside of marriage, and then they get married. Do you think they get married? Do you think a marriage of such
Very
can
good question.
last?
I wish somebody would. That's a very good question, see? If you fornicated, strange word.
Pretty heavy word.
Yeah.
But nobody uses that word anymore because it's really out of style. You know, it sounds like it's something bad.
It's a dirty word.
It's a dirty word, right? Yeah. So, but if you have, how does that set you up for marriage? Well, it screws you up, if you pardon the expression. If you, like I said, if you don't, man is composed of the physical, the earth, you obey certain laws, you breathe, your body functions, you've got plumbing, you function in an environment. So, but you have an inner environment, and there's a soul inside that person, another person growing within a person. Not everybody believes that. Not everybody wants to, because it's not convenient, because if you want animals for your mines and your factories, then you mustn't let people believe that. You mustn't let that self grow. Because if every self that grows that way will take over, it'll be the kingdom of heaven on this earth. You can't dominate an indomitable spirit, see? You can't dominate that part that God has breathed life into. And it's you're inbreathed. If you look in what you should be looking out for, you get that's rewarded by inbreathing of His presence. And this character, noble, strong, brave, it obeys all of the laws, not to be angry, not to be hateful, not to be impatient, not to respond, not to take too much stimulation from the pressures of life, not to give in when you know you're right, not to interfere with the ladies and to use them out of season, out of time, which is marriage. These are all laws which, if these laws were obeyed, you wouldn't have a society as sick and as filthy and as degenerate as it is today, with doctors rolling up their sleeves trying to cure the mess. And every time they cure one of these messes, they set you up to live longer, to become wronger. And when you live longer and become wronger, it comes another disease. And the disease that you had, you wish you died from the one before. And all they do is in licensing, releasing that dark spirit to evolve and to emerge and to wax strong on the earth, dominant, because we're curing it. We're giving it freedom and license. Say, hey, we don't have to, we don't have to be right. We don't have to be moral. The doctors can cure us of our syphilis and everything, and our gonorrhea and our herpes, and We can get a shot, and so that it frees us from the boundaries of conscience, and we become subject. We start to evolve in this dark way. Now, coming back to your question, I know it's around the mulberry bush, but we must obey those laws, and to the degree we cross over to the other side, it's like I said before, it's like going from West Germany into East Germany. You're subject to a different spirit. And every man that has sex before marriage immediately comes subject to the spirit of the woman, and every woman that he'll ever meet from the rest of his life. The moment he has sex with a woman before marriage, he goes outside the boundary. He adventures outside the boundary of conscience, like Adam with the fruit, the knowledge of good and evil. He adventures out away from the inner circle of light, and he crosses that border, and the light isn't in him anymore. Only a trailing conscience, and a strange anxiety, a strange awkwardness, a strange lustfulness, a need for that which has corrupted him. Like the woman who snorts coke, takes her lines, is that correct? Takes her lines on the picture of the man that corrupted her when she was 14. So that's exactly when a man becomes violated, when he uses that woman and it gets tempted across the border to violate that law. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not fornicate. See? And there's a reason for it. Because you're not just animals. You are human beings with a spirit that must... And if you want a kingdom of heaven, you have to obey those laws. Then you have children coming into the world that respect the life and your obedience to what's right in your heart. They see it. They see that you're innocent and that you love them, and they see the love of light the love of the light in you, and the light of love in you, right? And then they see that and they correspond with it, and their correspondence keeps them from the temptations of the world. So that by the minute you fornicate, and the minute you're completely out of control, your sexuality is awakened. Your sensuality is awakened, and it's intensified, and it is gratified as if it was loved, as though it was normal. As you become an acceptable ego animal. Now your sense of worth and well-being is dependent on more snorting on the picture of that which has corrupted you. You understand that principle? See? Your identity comes from that. And you can't love with it, and you can't love without it. And every relationship is worse. And every woman more dominant. And if she doesn't violate you, you violate her. When you discover you're being violated, then you turn around and violate. But even as you violate her, and you have sex with the violated, she is getting even with you in some strange way. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, therefore, one must not have sex before marriage. But if you have, dry out. Go back into your corner and get rid of, watch your sensitivity. Just see the fact that you have this image of this person that you have to snort coke on. I'm just using that as an exaggeration. It's the spirit of your original corruption you need to reinforce the nature that has got into you through that corruption. You begin to love what corrupted you. You begin to love the women and make the women love you, make them be your corrupter. It's a horrible relationship, see? So what you have to do is see that you're sensitive to the external world. You're also sensitive to the images in your mind. And you have to purify yourself. You have to come back, realize the truth of this, and watch your sensitivity and learn to deal with it, and get rid of your hates and loves, and love which leads to hate, and hate which leads to more sensual love, because love has gone cold in you, don't you see? The world's love substitutes for the love of God that you've deserted, see? So, cool it for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. Purify yourself. Put on the whole armor of God, right? That's what the scripture says, yes. That lady right behind there.
I wanted
Can you
to
stand?
ask, yes, oh, sure.
Thank you very much.
How do you save your child from yourself? It seems that I can't grow fast enough to save my child from me. And she's 8 years old.
I think I recognize a beautiful lady inside. This is not to go to your head or anything. You're not so beautiful on the outside, just the inside. You're not so bad on the outside. But yes, I see something nice in you, and I think your children, don't worry, your children will see that. See, don't you understand, if you could suddenly walk on water, if you suddenly became perfect, which you cannot, your children couldn't handle you. They'd look as though they'd seen a ghost, they'd run as fast as they could. They couldn't handle it. Because it means they have to look at too much of themselves at one time. You can't glow suddenly like a light bulb, and then they'll cringe. They'll burn like a snowflake in a furnace if you could become perfect overnight. So only to the degree that your consciousness rises and a little bit of light comes in, shows itself as concern for them, will that be sufficient to make them look at themselves and correspond with that love? It doesn't take much love. Just what you have there is just lovely. Just keep it going. You'll save them from yourself. Okay? Any other question?
When I lay down in bed and I meditate, after a while I feel like somebody lay down there with me. And I was just
Well, maybe they did. Did you lock the door?
No. And I was just wondering what that is, and I've heard also like they whisper my name and they say mommy. And I remember saying that deliver me from evil, that's all I could say, and I don't know, what is it?
Well, I think
And
possibly.
I could feel the bed move.
Anybody had experience like that? How many people had experience like that? You did too? Anybody else? 3 or 4 of you, hey? You want to explain it? Want to explain it to her?
I didn't know what it was. I just figured it was a spirit that laid on my bed. I didn't get excited because after
You got to
listening
be careful it doesn't lay on you.
after listening to you for so long, you know, I'm not as leery about.
Well, I didn't want to get into that this evening because although it's an interesting thing, maybe we should save that for another evening when we're dealing with other dimensions.
Just that my daughter, when she experiences it too, when she comes to the house and she lays in the bed, she says, "Mom, is this bed moving?" You know. And,
Yes, I understand what you're saying. In other words, if you were to be on a raft, this is a strange note to finish the program off on children, but if you were to be on a raft and deprived of sensual stimuli for 20 or 30 days and have just very little food to eat or drink, you would see what you saw as a child. Little children see monsters and strange things at the window in their room. That's because they're very aware and innocent, and they see with spiritual eyes. You see? But as you grow older and you fuse your spiritual self to your physical self, because that's how you don't see. What happens when you fall from grace and lose your innocence, the grossness of the animal self, the thick and animal self. Have you ever felt that some of your hands got big? Have you ever felt that bigness all over sometimes, that you felt the strange bigness, the thickness, awkwardness, the clumsiness? I don't know how to explain it, but that's as far as I can get with it. But as you lose your innocence, you become gross. You become thick animal. And you feel self-conscious, like Adam when he ate the fruit. He felt self-conscious, and because he'd become aware of his awakened sensuality. And that's why he had to cover himself with a fig leaf, because he felt embarrassed. He knew he was naked, but before he didn't realize there was anything wrong, but now he noticed some stirring in himself, because he died. He'd begun to die in the spirit and come to life as an animal, a procreating animal, rather than eternally renewing spirit, see? So, but when you're small, when you're a child and you have innocence, you see things far off. You see things by the light of one spirit world. You see that of the other spirit world. You see the monsters and the evil on the other side of the world. You see it trying to get at you. When you meditate, you come back to that innocence and you start to see that which couldn't be seen, because the way you don't see it and the way you can avoid seeing the horror in yourself, the evil and the evil on the outside, is to you lose yourself in your own, the folds of your own sensuality. You fuse your spiritual self, your consciousness, you fuse it with the flesh so that you see like a brute. You see like an animal, not like a person, and that way you can feel comfortable with yourself. And the more wrong you are, the more you learn to stimulate yourself in such a way that your soul can fuse with your animal feelings. You lose yourself in your thoughts and your feelings, and that way your conscience doesn't bother you, but it doesn't show you what you've become and the kind of horrible creatures that you're involved with, which appear to be your friends. But when you meditate, you start to see your friends as they really are. See? As I said, you'd see it if you're on a raft in the Pacific Ocean and you didn't have much food and water. Suddenly you'll see people on that raft talking to you. You'll see in that dimension. They'll take the images of your mind sometimes, and as if they're your mother or father, some familiar person, and they'll stand on that raft. You think, how did your mother get there? You could see them. And then they say, well, why don't you jump in the water with me, where the sharks are and everything. Well, they'll anyway, I haven't got time. There's so many things I could tell you, but if you don't support the program, I'm not going to be able to tell you. I'm full of it. I mean it. I mean, full of things to tell you. Some people think I'm full of it. But if you've enjoyed the program and you want to keep it on the air, please do. But more important, I want you to arrive at this marvelous state of awareness and consciousness through the meditation that I have. And I've spent all my life, I'm 60 years old now, and since I was 15, I've been searching. I'm the bee that doesn't know it can't fly, you know what I mean? I found the truth that I didn't go to school, but I found it my own way, and I found it in its purest and simplest form, and I'm presenting it to you in these programs and on my books and tapes. Please support us on the air with your contributions, and please buy the materials. If you can't afford it, we'll give it to you for what you can afford. I hope we'll be back next week. Take your chance. If you don't send some money, we won't be. Thank you very much for listening, and join us again.